1. So about 3 months ago, I moved in with a friend into a place. It's cheap, not bad. We were good friends, but living together is difficult. She has the smaller back 2 rooms, and I have the front room. They are separated by the living room and kitchen. I'm not the cleanest person, and I do forget to put stuff back, but will once I remember it. But she's on a different level. I understand cups in the room, and clothes on the floor, and maybe a dish you forgot to take out. But bags of 1+ week-old food and just trash everywhere. God, and the smell, I don't know if it's her, the cats, or both. I clean after myself, but I got tired of cleaning after her. It just piles up until she invites someone, depending on the person, over, and then she'll maybe pick up. And when she does clean, she makes out like I did nothing, when it's her stuff. Now, the back door is a flimsy piece of crap, so I put a deadbolt on it when we're not home. I only had 1 key, but it's the back door, so I was just going to make another key, or get another lock with 2. After about a week or so, I get a text when I'm at work, and she said she only grabbed 1 key because she thought they were the same. It had been 2 months, she probably should have known, but I digress. She's mad because she doesn't have the back door key, and it was in my room. I told her to just cut the lock, and I apologized. She was still angry at me. Another issue with the back door is it's right by my window, so the motion light flicks on at night and wakes me up. And my dog sleeps in my bed watching the window. My dog is pretty quiet usually, but will start growling and just getting really antsy if she sees random people outside. I asked if when she uses it to flick off the light before she does. She doesn't want to because she wants the light to see, which I guess is fair. But when she brings friends over, she uses the back door, which, like I said, freaks my dog out. And they'll just hang out back there. Now the cats, good lord, the cats. So, first, one day I randomly hear meowing while she's at work and find a brand new kitten that she got. She already had 2. She just got it without telling me or the landlord. Now this kitten just poops wherever, and I can't blame him because the damn litter box is more pee and poop than litter. It smells so bad in that room with the box that you can smell it from down the hall. And I don't know what stinks worse, that box or her room. Now I haven't really gone in there, but have gotten plenty of view from the door being open to know that it's just covered with trash, like food and other things. I'd be fine with it if it was just paper trash or some boxes, but no. I could see a whole pizza from the doorway. I wouldn't want to eat no Macros pizza anyways. Ugh. What shocks me is that she'll invite people over in that state. We also just keep arguing over things like when she left the back door open and my dog got out. I just got home and leaned around the hallway and said hey. She didn't respond. And I saw the back door in front of her room open, so I figured she was outside. I go to take my shoes off and my dog's harness, and I hear her, so I lean out my door. I can't see down the hallway from here. And say hey again, and she responds. I start settling in, my dog walks around the house. I get distracted, and after about 15 to 20 minutes, I figure she's in my roommate's room. Maybe. She seems to like my dog, and when I go to the bathroom, which is by her room, I see the back door is still open. I ask if my dog was in there, and she says, no, why? Being a lot panicked now that my dog got out, I lived in the country with a fence, which I don't have now, so my dog has never even seen a road until I moved. That worries me that she'll get hit. She's also a pit who likes to play fight with me, so that freaks people out, and I've already had to deal with a pit of mine getting put down for things like that. I did yell, the door is open, and I ran out. And I couldn't see her from the way I went, but she was in my yard. Still thinking I lost her, gave me anxiety and adrenaline, or just a panic attack, I don't know, but still. When I was walking back inside, my roommate was right at the door, and I immediately said sorry if I yelled, and she responded, angry already, well, it seemed like you were mad at me. And I snapped and yelled, damn right I'm mad at you. You left the back door open. She was only in the yard. She could still have gotten hurt or lost. I slept with that dog in my bed every day for 7 years. I'd lose it without her. I'm paraphrasing, I'm not 100% sure. Well, I closed the door. She must have pushed it open. She opened a closed door? She really doesn't have thumbs. Or did she just push a door open? Then we kept going back and forth, and she says yes, she did close it, and I say clearly she didn't, and then we went to our rooms. And the worst thing she didn't wish me a happy birthday. Alright, I'm being sarcastic. But I don't tell anyone my birthday, so for her to be one of the few people I remind about my birthday, to have her ignore it, kinda blows. Anyways, I didn't sign anything to get into this place, I just gave him cash, so I think I'll just tell my landlord it's my last month, and move back in with my dad, who said I was welcome back any time when I talked to him. Hellfreezer's note, that sounds like a very good idea. It might even be possible to salvage your friendship here from this point, but I certainly wouldn't live with her again. Sadly, that's a lesson that many people don't learn until they're in your situation. 2. I'm a 27-year-old woman. I had met a friend from work, and about 9 months into our friendship, we both needed to move and decided to move in together. She was living far from work, and I was trying to move closer to a new job I had just got. The roommate Sabine, 26-year-old woman, was living with her longtime friend and now ex-girlfriend, Helena, also female and 26, for roughly 2 years. They were besties despite having had broken up about 6 months before we moved in together. We were all friends by the time we had decided to move in, and it all seemed like a good plan. While I was not as clean as these roommates, I struggled with depression at the time. They were both aware of my depression room since they were my friends, and had been over to my previous apartment. Because of this, they convinced me that I should put down majority of our security deposit. Our deposit was $2,500, which was 1 month's rent. They asked me to pay $2,300 and that they would each put $100 towards the deposit. At the time, I wanted the unit to work, so I agreed with them that I would pay the money for the deposit. We had limited time to send the deposit to secure the apartment, so I took out money orders to be able to submit the payment in time. It all worked out, we were accepted, and started our 13-month lease together in April. Around December, one of the roommates decided to move out and move in with her boyfriend. I had no problem since she promised to have someone take her room, and until then she would cover her portion until they moved in. Shortly after that conversation, we celebrated my birthday together with a small party. Both roommates were invited, but only Sabine came because Helena was moving out that same weekend. Things were just fine between us, so I thought. But behind my back, Sabine was very unhappy with how I lived and how dirty I was compared to them. She often would hold things in and save face by being sweet and then talk crap behind my back. I had seen her do this to others in her life and knew what was happening before she confronted me. I was trying to do better, but it wasn't easy to get out of the mental place I put myself in, and I have never been a clean freak, so it didn't come naturally. I did put in effort to clean my space, but was overwhelmed at the same time. We started a chore board and other things roommates do, which did help the situation for a while. But by the end of the lease, we were not speaking or interacting with each other at all. I didn't want to be her friend anymore, and she didn't want to be mine. Honestly, that was okay with me, because I don't think she was an honest friend, and she made me feel like I had to prove myself to gain her friendship. I moved on with my life, got an amazing boyfriend, and planned to move in with him once my lease ended in May. It's now the end of the lease, and we are all moving out. The security deposit was in the back of my mind for that whole month, but I couldn't gather the strength to talk to Sabine or the new roommate. I felt overpowered because of how most of our previous interactions went. I wasn't hopeful this one would be different. I finally did text Sabine and Helena the last week of the lease to discuss the deposit. I knew they were upset with me, but I sent a message saying I wanted them to get back the full amount they paid toward the deposit, plus some utilities I had owed Sabine. But I needed my deposit back also. Helena replied back saying she forfeited her deposit when she left the lease in December. She then said how dare I think they would try to take my deposit and how terrible I was. 2 days later, Sabine replied saying the other 2 roommates and her had all been talking, and they were going behind my back to get the full deposit. She said they deserved it, and I didn't, as well as other mean comments about me, and went on to even criticize my current relationship. I was so livid. Helena tried to tell me they would never take my deposit, when that's what they were doing the entire time. They exposed themselves, which was all I needed. I already knew how Sabine was and suspected she would try to take my deposit. Because of my suspicion, I was already in contact with the leasing office and property management company before they had replied to my text message. I had bank receipts and text receipts to prove that I had put the majority, $2,300 for the deposit, and was in contact with them for a full month discussing the situation. Finally, I get a message asking to confirm a forwarding address for the deposit. But the company had sent this email to everyone, not including Helena, who did move and was no longer on the lease. Sabine replied to the email before I did, giving them her address, saying, "The majority of the house wants it sent here." I called the corporate office to talk with the person who had been helping me, and luckily they were able to gather my address and send me the check before it was sent to Sabine. Why did they make it so difficult, I have no idea, but regardless, it's been a week, and I just received the check, and you would not believe how much it was for. $2,370. They only took out the money for our cleaning fee and no other damages or fees. To think I didn't fight for this, they probably would have taken all that from me. Absolutely crazy. I am a good person, and so I did send Sabine $170 for the utilities and her deposit. The other roommate, Helena, agreed she forfeited her deposit in December, and the new roommate paid nothing. So I didn't send them any money. Everything is done now, and I'm so glad it is. This whole thing has been extremely stressful and annoying to deal with. Even when having the proof on my side, to think they would try to take that much money from me, and that they thought they were entitled to my money is beyond me. Just because you don't get along with someone doesn't mean you can steal from them, kiddos. Careful who you live with. Glad to say peace out to big ol' bitchy roommate. 3. I'm a university student, and my friends and I had trouble finding a house for our second year. The options in our city are relatively limited, and we had a couple of people we had planned to live with drop out of the house. As a result, the three of us had to live with 3 other people we didn't already know. 2 of these new housemates have always been fine by my standards, as in they have not done too much to irritate me, and I would have considered them my friends too. However, there is the one who I could just never bring myself to like. He spends all day screaming at his Xbox. He doesn't clean up after himself. He never contributed anything to the upkeep of the house. The only one to not do things like mop the floor, buy bin bags, get sink unblocked whenever it was blocked by him, shoving food down the kitchen sink. I also need to add that I've been the only girl in the house, and this particular housemate is a year older than I am. He has always spoken to me in a very patronizing tone, purposefully tried not to have me included in group activities, talks over me 24/7, and most annoyingly, he will jump into any conversation I have with my friends if he walks into the room. I know it's a shared space, but if my friend has come over and we're sat talking about how excited I am to go on holiday to Ibiza in a week's time, we do not want him jumping in to tell us how crap Ibiza is and how I'm gonna hate it. Our tenancy started in August, but we all stayed home until the semester started in September. This particular housemate spent a weekend in our uni-city with his mates and had them sleeping in other people's rooms, something he never intended to tell us and actually lied about when caught. One of his friends drew on the wall of the bedroom for some reason. The housemate concocted some elaborate story about how all 3 of the housemates were sleeping in his tiny room with him, but one of them had a psychotic episode, stole the key to this locked room and from the kitchen drawer, grabbed the Sharpie, and locked himself in the bedroom, only to draw my housemate's name on the wall in the style of a graffiti tag, and then apparently run into the garden and scream, "Meh!" I've caught him using my stuff multiple times, as well as other people's, even after it's been communicated to him on multiple occasions that we are not sharing, as everyone came into the house with their own things except him, and that if he needs something he can ask, but he really should buy his own. He eventually did, though he was still using all of ours. I'm also reasonably sure he's the one who has been stealing other people's drinks and sauces from the fridge. I've had a lot of things disappear after being left in the living room. A pack of cards, a speaker, some pens, a bracelet, multiple lighters. Things that also kept mysteriously getting broken. Someone swung the door to the living room and kitchen all the way open, not something you could do by accident, to be honest. and made a massive hole in the wall. One of the dining room chairs was completely snapped backwards despite being made of what we had thought was a pretty sturdy metal frame. A piece of the countertop came loose. The paint is somehow scratched and chipped all over the living room area. And someone has clearly spilled something on the sofa that I could not get out in the wash. I do suspect all of this is down to this particular housemate, or at least most of it, but questions have been asked by others in our group chat and nobody will own up to it. We paid quite a large damage deposit and I'd like to see that money back, but I don't see that ever happening now. He also seems to be the only one who has left his stuff in the house. We thought he was coming back. Turns out he's returned both his front door and room keys, so we can't even go into his room and throw away whatever nonsense he's left behind. He left the kitchen full of all the stuff he didn't want. We were told that if we didn't leave the house in the condition it was given to us, it was honestly pretty immaculate, we would be charged a cleaning fee. And if you know anything about student letting agencies, then you know how much they love to upcharge you for anything and everything. Hellfreezer's note, the only thing I can suggest here is you make repairs and do the cleaning yourself before you go. Weigh whether or not it would be cheaper to hire either a machine or someone with a machine to come and do it for you, to clean the carpets and such, get the repair done to the damaged paint, all that sort of thing. Not sure about the chair though, so you might just have to sacrifice some money to replace that. But I do hope it works out for you all. You shouldn't be held responsible for someone else's mistakes. But of course, there is the onus of having to prove that your roommate did that. Either way, at least you don't have to deal with them anymore. 4. When I moved into the apartment, I was placated with the excuse that the people who lived here before me were frat boys and prank YouTubers. Damn YouTubers. The place was filthy. So I cleaned out the expired food, the fridge and freezer, the cabinets and counters, and placed liners in the cabinets to prevent having to do another week of kitchen maintenance. Turns out, it was obviously in the state it was due to their uncleanliness. I've lived in some absolute dumps, but this was just straight up neglect for those around them. Coffee stains on the counters, fruit rotting on the floor, stovetop never being wiped down after using it, and food molding in the disposal. Not to mention the rotting smell that just lingers, which is absolutely from the mold in the coffee pot or the bathroom ceiling. Roommate A swears they have a fragrance allergy, so I have to use specific products to clean that take ages to work on top of a lot of elbow grease, when it's just me picking up after them no matter how often I ask. They'll usually say they will, then it stays for another week, so I end up doing it anyway. Which doesn't help the ant problem. I love wearing scented lotions and I have an entire collection of them that they've made me wash off. Even my non-scented moisturizer was apparently too much for them, so I had to wash that off as well. What made things even more uncomfortable was that roommate A has a huge crush on the other roommate, roommate B. Roommate B has made it very clear they don't like them back. But is happy to accept gifts of alcohol and such. It makes it incredibly awkward to be around roommate A because they act like a completely different person around roommate B, often yelling at me when I'm joking with them because they don't like how we talk with each other. It also felt exhausting to walk up to them both playing on my PlayStation or using my TV. I allowed it, but I felt like a third wheel sitting there wanting to relax before getting ready for work. Because when I get off work, people are sleeping, and I would have to be silent. Not that it stopped either of them from yelling at the TV while I was sleeping. Roommate B finally moved out and roommate C moved in. Roommate C made me realize I'm not crazy about the smell or the lack of responsibility of cleaning up. I've been so used to taking the trash and recycling out and wiping up messes that aren't mine that it just felt like I needed to at this point if I wanted to live relatively normal. Roommate C and I talked to a therapist about it, who said that roommate A sounds controlling and narcissistic, and that it's not our place to give roommate A an excuse for being a hoarder despite the smell coming from their room, and having once seen the inside being covered in dishes and trash and clothes. That some people are just slobs. We still try to have multiple conversations with roommate A, starting with a small, "We don't know what you're going through, but we do need you to start cleaning up after yourself" conversation. They gave us crocodile tears and said they needed some time to think of things that we've done wrong, so they don't feel unprepared for a longer conversation. We asked roommate A to set a date because they were the ones asking for more time. 2 weeks later, we texted the group chat that we needed to have the talk that night or the day after because it's been drawn out for too long. Roommate A argued that we never gave them a date, which cycled into a one-sided conversation about roommate A needing to take responsibility for themselves. To which their reply was that they aren't going to apologize for our bad communication. Conversation 2 became about the same thing, a cycle of us trying to have the conversation and them claiming that we haven't communicated a date for the conversation. By the 4th attempt, we were all dead set to only communicate over text or with a recording. I'd like to preface that at this point, I would have moved by now if I wasn't disabled. Like all the last conversations, we were just going in circles, so roommate C and I just messaged all of our grievances, such as her owing me money, stealing our silverware, so we can't eat, and having to keep our kitchen stuff in our rooms, the rat that showed up outside our door, the ant problem, the spills and rotten food she hasn't cleaned up, dishes left in the sink 24/7, turning up the fridge temp to freeze our food and drinks, leaving a plethora of inspired food in the fridge and freezer, leaving the objects out for months at a time on the dining table we share, placing dishes back in the cabinet still covered in food, changing the temperature of the AC without asking anyone's comfort levels. They don't own either ACs either. Keeping the TV volume up loud when others are sleeping, yelling at video games while people are sleeping, taking over the space of the kitchen with their own dishes and food that is supposed to be divided 4 ways, leaving out their coffee drip and blender still gross from their drinks until the next day they use them, and letting their coffee pot mold over after every use, plus not feeling like we have a right to live comfortably in our own apartment. Now, we are not giving in to her threats and are trying to live comfortably with candles to block out the smell and wearing lotion, which seems like such a small bar. We've been on the basis of only texting each other to talk, but roommate A began to leave out our recycling on the patio in an attempt to get us fined. We've brought it back inside twice. Roommate C placed it in the hallway to roommate A's door, which is when the police were called. Roommate A started to kick it out of the hall, kicked it at roommate C, and roommate C threw it back in the hall while stating that we weren't going to be charged just because they don't want to take out recycling. Roommate A went into the room and roommate C kept yelling that roommate A needs to give us back our things and pay me back the money they owe me. That's when roommate A decided to claim we were trying to break into their room and called the police because they felt unsafe. The police basically said this is a roommate issue, that we should just accept that if we're going to live with a hoarder to get used to doing all the cleaning. The office then sent me and roommate C a letter saying we were in violation of trying to break into a roommate's room, throwing things, screaming and threatening. Which is funny when I recorded the majority of the situation from the sofa. The next warning is a $50 fine and the possibility of a termination of the lease. We've been to the office a number of times because of roommate A not cleaning up after themselves, the mold and ant problem and the smell, but they gave roommate A a month to clean out their room when the office told us they would send maintenance in a few days. So it's obvious whose side they're on, despite video and photo evidence that differs. We have a few plans in mind, but honestly just needed to get it out. 5. To preface, we are all 3 in the wrong. But I gave up at some point trying to keep my home livable and stay at my boyfriend's when I'm off. I go home to sleep in between shifts. I'm nights, and I'm home 3 out of 7 days. I take care of my cat, and to do my laundry. Other than that, I'm gone. I'm ending the lease tomorrow, but everything is weighing heavily on me as they're my family. I still don't want anything to do with them going forward. I let my brother and his girlfriend move in with me. They're approximately 5 years younger than me, and I knew they'd have to grow and learn, as this was their first time having their own place. But I grew tired of trying to communicate and cleaning up after them. Dishes have been constant, stacked high in the sink, and food left in the sink and on the counters. There's always a film left on the counters too, and the stove is consistently filthy. I just had to deep clean the microwave because food was caked on the sides. His girlfriend complains if I call them out too often for food in the sink. The agreement was no food left, but dishes were okay for 24 hours. Trash is consistently overfilled. That was my brother's one daily chore. It causes the house to reek with the dishes. Regarding the cats, she has 2 and I have 1. We were trading off every other day to do the boxes, but 9 out of 10 times it was just me doing it. I still clean them when I'm home and deep clean the boxes bi-weekly. However, if I spend the weekend at my boyfriend's, I have to change the boxes completely due to her not touching them. We've talked about the responsibility and watching the cats when the other isn't home, and both of us have been fine with it. When they're not home for an extended period of time, I watch her cats as well. There is a box in her room that is worse than the 2 combined. Due to litter, we have to sweep every day. Which I'll give her that, she does sweep every day. I deep cleaned the bathroom because no one has for months, including me. I found urine caked around one of the hubs on the side of the toilet. The shower had to be bleached and scrubbed, and I had to clean their toothpaste globs off the sink. I have found pee on the ground and her period blood on the wall multiple times. Laundry is consistently backfilled by them. They get mad if I put a load in before they go to sleep to make sure I have clean scrubs for work that night. They get mad if I put their clothes in their room, even if I move them over. Communal items have been a key problem since the beginning. They don't provide receipts but expect me to pay them 2 times the amount. If they spent $30 on the 2, they'll request $35 from me. I'm exaggerating. I own 90% of the things in the apartment, ranging from the main furniture to the dishes and towels. They were allowed to use everything, but I slowly started to take privileges away. I'd asked them to get towels a few times because I rarely had a clean one. His girlfriend tried to assign towels to people to avoid having to buy their own, and threw a fit when I tried to kindly put my foot down. This was met with how selfish I was. This recently happened with my pool towels, when I had requested that they didn't use 1 of my 6 towels. They used it anyways and left it in a pile soaked along with the rest of my pool and bath towels. She has used my tanning oil, body soap, shampoo, and conditioner, and everything else, even if I say something. I had finally had enough regarding all communals, and said that we are only splitting kitchen supplies, cleaning supplies, and toilet paper. They took my laundry detergent, and took half my box of dryer sheets out of my room. Not too big of a deal, but it was the audacity. She was watching my nephew for my mom. He fell down the concrete steps because she wasn't paying attention. Instead of grabbing me, she took him to the pool. She was reprimanded then. She then no-called, no-showed over an injury, but was fine. Then left for a week with a day's notice, and it ended up getting her fired. I also had no clue they were leaving and was met with a text to feed the cats. I genuinely didn't care until I came home and found a bag of trash ate through by the cats with raw chicken on the floor. Another bag in the can full, dishes in the sink, globs of toothpaste in the sink, 5 cans of soda, a fountain soda, and food in their room along with my dryer sheets that I had bought. Since I worked nights and no one was home and cats got into the raw chicken, I had a camera set up for my cat in my bedroom. I decided to leave my camera up in case they took more things out of my room, from advice from my mom. This caused them to send me nasty texts, which I unfortunately reacted to, and I wish I didn't. This is where I start to focus on every single immature action I have done. If I just had let this go, would we be fighting? And the answer is yes, but it would have just been something worse because that's how we got to the raw chicken. If I had gotten my grandparents involved sooner, would their actions be better? Maybe. I don't want to apologize for my portion of the problem, but I also don't want to lead with the hatred that I have, regardless of everything. Apologizing allows them to continue to force themselves to be victims, when in reality we're all at fault. We all suck. But at least I'm not dirty, and that's all I'm going to end it with. I am the A2. Hellfreezer's note, and I mean this very respectfully. No, you're not. Anything you did that you think makes you seem unreasonable was a result of the frustration you were forced into. It sounds like you've been very generous and accommodating to two people who are refusing to mature. Now, you say you're moving out. Good. Make sure you take absolutely everything that is yours with you. Don't have to go back for anything. It's possible that time apart will help your brother mature and appreciate you as a sibling. So please don't be too hard on yourself. I really think you are. I hope that wherever you end up next, it's either with good, clean, reasonable roommates, or maybe a place on your own, so you can enjoy the solitude. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates, episode 25. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button. It helps YouTube recommend the videos to others, which is something we want them to do. Love it when they do that. You can also help by recommending the video to friends and family. If you'd like to get early access to these videos, get them all at once on a Monday, then you can support me on my Patreon page, which is linked for you in the description. You can do that for as little as $1 or more a month. In addition to that, you'll find links to the Hellfreezer Discord server and the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring. If you'd like to leave a tip for today's video, that's very much appreciated. You can do that by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath, although that and none of that is ever required. But I thank you very much if you choose to do so, and I appreciate the help very much. Okay. No other bits and bobs today, I don't think, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: do you sometimes ever add vegetables to a meal when you're cooking just because it looks kind of boring and not so much for the flavor? Like, I want a little green in there, maybe a little yellow, a little orange, maybe even a little purple, depending on what you have on hand. Because, sometimes you just want things to look pretty. Why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below? And before we go, let's have a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Emerald Angel, and this one's from Bedroom Mates 23. I just noticed I'd made a mistake on the thumbnail for 24, which I'll have to fix when I'm done with this. And this is a soup and a stew, the same thing. And their answer is definitely a soup, a very thick soup, but it counts since you have to use a bowl to eat it. I think that counts as a reasonable argument. Not to say anything in a bowl is a soup, but if it has a certain lack of cohesion, yes. Thank you very much for your answer, Emerald Angel. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.